Hello everybody, it's May 25th. The garden is nearly fully planted, so I thought it'd be a good time to show you what we have going on here. We haven't made a lot of content. We've been really busy between here and the farm we work at, so we really haven't had much time for much else besides farming, but we are almost done planting, so I figured it'd be a good time to show you what we have going on. I finished my coffee, so let's get going. So right outside our front door here, we put in this new small circular bed. This is going to be mostly just kitchen herbs. Right outside the door, we have some dill, rosemary, parsley, cilantro. I'll put a few more herbs in there, and then we should actually get to mulching that. And then this is also a new bed this year. This is just various flowers. Snapdragons, logia, asters, daisies, and I also got these free poppy seeds from Baker Creek, and they're doing pretty well. This snapdragon looks like it's going to, let me focus it here, erupt any day now, so I am getting really excited about that. I never was really super into growing flowers, but then we got bees and they love them, and I am set on growing flowers now. Not only for the bees, but they also just add such a beauty to the garden, and I love them now. Over here in the front bed we have various Brassica Greens already going to seed, as brassicas do when it starts to get warm, and we got that little hot spell of like 92 degrees, so of course they're starting to go to seed already. And over in this bed, we still haven't planted out the center, so we have to go ahead and do that soon. And then new this year, I'm actually growing these guys, and they are called ground cherries. Something I'm trying to figure out about ground cherries is if they are like a determinate tomato and like all their fruit comes at you at once, or if they're more like indeterminate and you get fruit throughout the season. I don't know why, I can't seem to find an answer online, so if you happen to know, I would love to know. Leave me a comment. And in the back here we have Borage, which is in the spinach family and tastes much like spinach. I'm excited because this is the first year that I think I'm actually going to have some plants of it. The previous years it has gotten absolutely chowed by rabbits and or deer. So these leaves are just beautiful. Let me get a closer look at those. The tops kind of have this dusty appearance, but then underneath they are just this like vibrant. Here, let me pluck a leaf. But then underneath they are just this vibrant red. It's so beautiful. So I'm excited to mix this into salads. You can cook it down just as you would spinach. So I'm pretty excited about that. You can see over here, these onions are going to seed. So onions are biennial, meaning that they flower in their second year. So I left these in the garden over winter, and it's pretty cool. So I'm actually going to let these go to seed. They form these big beautiful bulbs, and then I will collect the seed when it dries out, and then we'll have our own onion seed for next year. Over in this bird bath bed we have various flowers, a mix of celosia, lavender, cosmos, and all right there is actually borage that has reseeded itself, and I'll end up thinning some of that out, but I love volunteer plants. They kind of take a lot of the work out of it for you, so, and they are awesome. Borage is an edible flower. It's also a medicinal plant used to make tea that helps you relax, so I love borage, and the pollinators love it too. But our idea with this space is to kind of make it like a bird and pollinator oasis around the bird bath there, because bees and other bugs will get their drinks from that as well. And we like to give the birds a little privacy, so we think it's fun to put these nice tall but feathery like flowers around the bird bath, so they feel like they get a little private lagoon. Over here we have some wonderful spinach, some radishes. On all of our greens thus far this season, we have had a lot of trouble with slugs, and we've had slugs of all shapes and sizes. Big slugs, like some fatty McFatties the size of like my pinky finger. Oh, there's one now, I can see it. Oh yeah, you see him? Now I'll go on this side. And these conditions are perfect for slug. Early morning, there he is, you see him? He's crawling back to his log. That's the other problem. We love to use natural materials for our garden beds, which is great. We have them available and it's good for biodiversity, but it also, the slugs love it too. They love logs, they love mulch, they love wood chips, so it's kind of it's a bit of a balancing act when you have natural materials like that around your garden with slugs. And their damage can be kind of obvious. They tend to make very circular holes, something like that, because they chomp around in a circle a lot of the time. Sometimes they chomp the edges, so like that. And a lot of times too, if you look your leaves over, might be hard for me to find it now because it actually is kind of moist this morning, but a lot of times too you can even see like a slug trail, like this glistening slime left over from the slugs traveling to plant. So their damage can be kind of obvious, and if you come out early morning or late evening when there's like that dew in the air, and you look around your plant, you can find them. Our best solution for them right now is to just come out here, hand pick them, and put them in a cup of soapy water to drown them. You can use beer overnight, and they'll go over to the beer. They get attracted to the yeast. They'll drink it. They'll get drunk off of it, and then they'll actually fall in and drown. So I guess just choose your poison, which way you'd like to eliminate them. But on the scale we're growing things, we find it best to just come out and actually hand pick them off as we see them. When it comes to pests in the garden in general, your best way of treating them is to just kind of like eliminate them when you see them. Pests reproduce quickly. With slugs, I just found out they actually have both male and female parts, so any slug can reproduce with any other slug. They don't need to find like the other opposite gender. So they can reproduce like crazy. So you want to like eliminate them, stop them from breeding so that they don't create all these numbers and then you have an outbreak. So when it comes to pretty much, I think, any pest that I've ever dealt with, I hand pick them as I see them and throw them in soapy water because I don't like squishing bugs. I get squeamish, but that's really your best way of handling pests in the garden. And back to the tour, we have beautiful, beautiful lettuce coming at us now. Some beautiful lettuce coming at us now. That we're starting to eat now that we've gotten the slugs under control, and some beautiful beet greens. Me and my family have been eating beet greens since we were children. My mom used to joke that, or still does joke, that we used to fight as kids over the last bit of beet greens. She would make them so good with a little, saute them down, little butter, salt, pepper, and a splash of apple cider vinegar, and they're delicious. And to this day, I still remember them from my childhood. So I love growing beet greens. Some more various poppies here, and another bed of flowers. The zinnia, you can see. Let me zoom in here. The zinnia is about to pop. I've been watching it for a day now. And then over in the patio area, I'm growing something for the first time this year. This is called Moonflower. It's in the Morning Glory family, and it's this big, beautiful white flower. From what I read, it only opens at night, but it like perfumes the air with this beautiful fragrance. So it can get up to like 12 to 15 feet long. I built this little box and trellis system for it. This was out of an old pallet, so that was free. And then this trellis I bought at Home Depot for $20. It's pressure treated so it won't rot. And I thought it'd be really cute for it to grow up this and then kind of like spill over the gazebo. And as we sit here at night, which we love to do in the summer evenings, and we can watch the blooms open and hopefully see some moths come visit us too. They're supposed to be as big as like a dinner plate, so I'm super excited to show you guys once those are actually in bloom. I hope they do well. And we go to the larger part of the garden here. This is going to be peppers. We love growing our peppers in this like raised bed style. We've had the best success with them growing like this, whether it's a combination of like that really deep loose soil or the richness because we add compost and fertilizer to it, which I really feel like peppers love fertilizer. They can also be susceptible to root rot, so I think having this good drainage really helps them as well. But we grow nearly all of our peppers in raised beds or some sort of container growing now because they've just done so well for us in that way. We still will plunk a few in the ground, but they never do as well. So that's how we like to grow our peppers. We've got turnips and rutabagas in this bed. It's the first time we're growing rutabagas, so I'm excited about that. Some carrots along here. I know people have had trouble germinating carrots, and what we've done this year is we've threw a row cover over these for various reasons. It helps keep the moisture in. It helps not dry out the soil because they're not getting direct sunlight. It keeps out any early pests that might fly in, and keeps out the rabbits, which is nice. And we've had pretty successful germination. You can see the little carrots coming. They're pretty tiny right now, but I mean, we also sow them somewhat densely and we'll go back to thin them out later. But we'd rather sow them densely, get a good germ, and then have to thin them rather than having to replant. So that's one of the methods we use. Same deal with the beets. These are all beets coming at us. And we use the same method of row covering these for the same reasons. Beets aren't as finicky germinators, but it does help to keep the temperatures even, moisture even, and keep rabbits out. Rory was actually going around applying some holistic sprays to our trees. When he came up yesterday, I was making dinner, and our chickens were actually in this bed. We don't have a permanent gate for their run yet because we've just had so much going on this year, and they got into the beets a little bit. Thankfully, they did not do too much damage. You can kind of see like the hole right there where they scratched up, but it could have been a lot worse. So I'm glad Rory caught that. I'm really excited about this part of the garden this year. This is our first arch trellis, definitely not our last. I love this idea of growing stuff vertically for beauty, for ease of access, for for space saving, like it's just all the reasons. We just have this, probably can't even really see it on the camera, but we have just this like put together pretty shoddily little metal fence up just to keep the rabbits out. And first thing on the trellis this year, are these butterfly peas. These make a gorgeous deep violet flower that is edible, and I've grown them once successfully. They are tricky to germinate, and my favorite thing to do with them is actually to make butterfly pea tea, which is this beautiful vivid blue drink. It tastes good. It kind of tastes like cucumber-y, but it's so beautiful and delicious. Next up on the trellis, we have Scarlet runner beans. You can see them just starting to come in. And we planted both things on each side of the trellis, so like they're gonna mirror each other and kind of like meet in the middle. So we planted both sides of the trellis, and then on like either side of the bed, not here. And then next we have cucumbers coming, and we're gonna end it off with some cucamelons and loofah squash, which I have not planted yet. We're probably gonna plant those today. Another bed of various flowers back here. Oh, looks like this Lacy Phacelia is about to open. Lacy Phacelia is about to open. Look at that, that's unusual looking. And here is our kind of sad looking greens planting. This has gotten very chomped up, first by rabbits, then by slugs, so it's looking very spotty. We're trying to replant it as we go. But we are definitely set back on greens this year because of all the pest damage we've been encountering. It's always so interesting to me because we've grown greens for years without much of an issue, and then when we moved here, we definitely noticed that we had more of a Brassica pest population. So kind of for the first time, we're dealing with all these new pests on our brassicas that we hadn't dealt with at home before. Like, we were familiar with slugs and moths and stuff or butterflies from the place we work at, but at home we never really had a problem with it. So now we're looking for all these like home methods of dealing with them, because at the farm we just spray for them. But now that we're trying to do things very holistically, we have to kind of do more research and figure out the best way to get rid of these things. But every place has its battles. And if we walk over here past the chicken coop, we actually have a new garden area this year. This used to be 2 giant maple trees. They weren't in the healthiest conditions. You can see that's one of the stumps right there. And then Rory actually made this border of the garden with all the remnants of the trees, which I thought was kind of cute. And over here we have more beets and carrots. Germination was not as good over here. The rabbits kind of got to them early. Our first of 3 onion plantings. We're kind of going a little onion crazy this year, but they are so good fresh, and we use a ton of onions. It's funny because like when you think of like any culture's cuisine, you know, like I feel like the base of the recipe always starts with some sort of onion and fat, whether it's butter or olive oil or whatever it may be. A good recipe seems to always start with onions, and I agree, they are delicious. Over here we have probably tripled our potato crop for this year. This is just, again, one patch of them. We were so psyched having fresh potatoes to come and dig out last year, and they stored pretty well, and they are just so calorie dense. And you know, when you see on the news that we might be facing food shortages, it's very reassuring to know that you can come out here and pick like a couple hundred calories at a whack in your hands, you know? So we're feeling really good about this planting. And then we have a lot more space to fill. It's kind of hard to see because we have the wood chips and the straw, but this is still all garden space here. We have a couple, let me get my shadow out of the way, we have a couple squash plunked in. I'm sure we'll add more. And then further down, this slope of ours, we have more garden beds down that way. One of the things that me and Rory loved instantly about this property is that it wasn't a just flat square piece of land. We love the undulating hills and the low spots, the high spots. It's honestly a permaculturist dream because we have all these different microclimates that we can observe, see what would do best in that area, and then like plant accordingly. So it's been really fun to have all these different layers of our garden. It's never going to just be this like flat square plain areas that have their own characteristics, and it really lends well to being a permaculturist. It's kind of awesome. So I could go into what we have going on here, but it would be an extremely long video. But we have this kind of terraced effect going down this hill here, and Rory should probably just do a perennial video because that would be such a long video for me to show you guys. We probably can't really see it. Let me try to zoom in on the camera, but like here's a tree. Like we have all sorts of different trees and shrubs, fruiting shrubs planted on this hill. If anyone watched my hollyhock video last year, these guys are doing amazing. Looks like they're about to flower, so I'm so excited. They're doing really well. So let's stay on track here and show you guys more of the annual things we have going on. So over here we have more potatoes, garlic, some peas, kind of using those as like a cover crop, but because it was just old seed. Some shell pea, but hey, if they make some shell peas, it's a win-win. And another, kind of hard to see because they're really thin right now, but another onion planting here. And then if you guys saw our videos on the different ways we make garden beds, you probably saw this huge burnt out bed that Rory just made this year. And oh my gosh, like these tomatoes, I don't think I've ever seen a happier tomato. Like, I don't know if the camera's gonna capture this color, but like these tomatoes are so green, like ridiculous. They are so healthy looking. This combination of the richness from burning out the soil and then adding compost, like a thick layer of compost. They're loving this. Same with this is kind of like a random assortment of goods, if you will. Sometimes when we just have like extra stuff, we throw it together in another part of the garden. But we have lettuces, collards, broccoli, and red mustard. And I mean, just look at the color. You can look at this. You can just tell that that baby is full of nutrients and vitamins, and like the color of these leaves is unbelievable. I hope that the camera can capture this. It's wild. I think they're very happy with this burning of the bed, releasing these nutrients in the soil and this compost on top. Like the color and the richness here is fantastic. So definitely a method we're going to continue to use. We still have half of this bed to plant, but honestly these are probably the healthiest looking plants in the garden right now. So it is a method we are definitely going to continue to use and thrive off of. And also we've noticed that the pest damage is far less down there, and I'm wondering if it's because, you know, we did burn the soil, we did kind of either kill or force some critters out of that area because of the fire, but in doing so, we've laid the groundwork of making a pretty pest-free environment to start off with, so many good reasons to do that. I forgot to show you our beans. We also have beans. We're planting these right beside the cucumbers going up the trellis. They'll be on the side of the trellis where the sun gets, where it gets the most sun. That way the cucumbers don't shade out the beans. But we have found that growing beans and cucumbers together, the cucumbers greatly benefit from the nitrogen that the beans fix into the soil. Like, you'll get this beautiful lush green cucumbers climbing up the trellis, producing a ton of fruit, and we've had a lot of success with growing beans next to certain things that really thrive off of it. So coming up our hill here, this is our high ground of the property, and we're letting things get a bit wild up here, but we like it that way. I could go on and on about the benefits of allowing your meadows and orchard areas to look like this instead of freshly mowed grass, but that's probably for another video. But I mean, just look at this beauty. I don't know if the camera's gonna capture it like the eyes capture it, but this mingling of clover and buttercup and various sorrels and grasses, it's magnificent. And at some point it will get out of hand and we'll start to make mowing aisles, but for now we let the plants do what they're gonna do, and the wildlife greatly appreciates it. So starting off, we have this circular bed, and this is kind of very like purposeful polyculture. On the outside ring, I'll have onions and fennel, followed by kohlrabi, followed by red mustard. So this will be really beautiful once it all is full grown. And we just have this fence, this makeshift fence around it right now to keep the rabbits out. Over here we have fava beans, which I have found are super easy to grow. So if you're interested in growing beans, I would definitely, like more like storage beans, if you will, or like fat lima bean type beans. I would definitely recommend these fava beans. They make these huge pods. They're great fresh. I actually haven't tried drying them, but that's one of my goals this year, is to dry and store them and then use them more as like a dry bean. But delicious, delicious flavor. Very good. And then over here we have another pea planting. Not quite as nice as the down bottom area. But to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest pea fan. You know, snap peas get all the rage, and I could do without peas. Like, I really could. Just not for me. Like, I'll grow them because like they are a garden staple, but like I could do without them. And over here we have this huge bed of various tomatoes, cherries, rags, plums, a few heirlooms. And to start it all off, we have this beautiful tomatillo plant. This is actually a purple tomatillo, and I'm so excited. I grew tomatillos for the first time last year. Fell in love with them. They're delicious for tacos. This purple one, supposedly you can eat raw. You don't have to cook like the other green tomatillos. So I'm excited to try those. And then this all down here, various tomatoes. This is probably like at least double, maybe even triple the amount of tomatoes we grew last year, but I am becoming a tomato hound. It's funny, I never liked tomatoes. And then I started working at a farm and I realized that you can grow other tomatoes besides a red beefsteak tomato, and all the different colors and flavors. It's intoxicating. Like, it's so good. Some more ground cherries, and a pepper just thrown in back there. Also really excited for those. And then the last purely annual growing bed space back here is this giant rectangle, which we are saving for our melons. Rory planted this really cute ring of fava beans around, and then we're going to plunk our melons in the middle, and then by the time the melons have reached the space of the fava beans would have been picked and out of there. So we've been trying to really take advantage of space and even get like a few things put in prior to like the main crop. So that's something we've been trying to do more often, to really get the most out of any space. And the melons will hopefully go in there today or tomorrow. We thought we were in the clear with these nights, and then we just got hit with a 44-degree night last night, and it's going to be 45 degrees tonight, which you can plant melons and peppers in that weather, but they would just prefer it if it was over 50. So we're holding out on planting our melons and peppers until these nights pass. All right, guys, well, that is it for today. I could go on probably forever, but I won't. And yeah, I can't wait to show you guys what this is going to look like in a few weeks. Thanks for watching. See you next time.